Namaste. Welcome to your practice. In today's session, we're going to work with the shoulders and upper back to see if we can free up your breathing a little bit. To get started, please lie down on your mat or whatever space you're working with. And if it feels okay, let's just start by straightening the legs here. What I'd like to see if we can find initially is just taking in an imprint of how our body's feeling right now and what we can notice. As you roll your head side to side a time or two, what do you notice in your neck? Does one side feel like it's a little bit more free and easy? Or is there some sense of being restricted or stuck, one side or another? And come back through to center and check in with your two shoulder blades. Do they feel even? Does one feel like it's sitting a little bit differently than another? Do you feel pressure on one part of the shoulder blade and one side that you don't in another? Does one side of your back feel like it's a little higher off of the mat than the other? Does one side of your body feel like it's different in some way? And then check in with your breath. Now, if it makes you anxious to do that, then skip this part. But if it feels okay, I just want to see if we can notice, how are you breathing right now and how does it feel? Does the breath feel like it's a little bit higher in the chest? Do you feel some effort in your throat, your neck or shoulders as you breathe in? We're not trying to change anything yet, we're just noticing. Then we'll start to get into our movement practice. So let's step the feet in from here so that the knees are bent. Take the feet a little wide and just a gentle windshield wiper here, letting the knees go side to side. So we'll return to this position on our backs again a little bit later in our practice and see how everything's feeling. Now, as your knees go to the right, we'll look over the left shoulder. As your knees go left, we look over the right shoulder. So just see how that feels, lengthening across the diagonal through the upper body. We've got a shorter practice today, but that doesn't mean that we can't do some really effective work. Now we'll come back through the center. Interlace your hands here, turn the palms toward the ceiling and feel yourself rounding your upper back from left to right so the shoulder blades kind of pull away from the floor. And then keeping the reach of the arms, see how far you can comfortably reach the arms overhead before you get stuck. Some of you might touch the floor and others of you might not. It's no big deal either way. And then maybe stretch your arms a little bit up and over to your right and to your left. And the arms can be more reaching toward the ceiling than toward the floor. It doesn't matter here. We're just moving and mobilizing a little bit. And then finally, invite your knees in towards you. Take one hand on each knee and let's just rock a little bit left and right until finally we rock over to one side and come up to a kneeling position. Now in our kneeling position, we're in tabletop, hands and knees. Let's rock forward and back a few times. See if you can let your belly be a little bit relaxed here. So I'm not trying to make my back have a back bend, but I'm just letting it sort of drop into its natural shape. And you can have your toes tucked or untucked, whatever feels better. Right now my toes are tucked under. And then let's add a little look over the shoulder. So as you drop back, we look over one shoulder and then over the other shoulder. See what you can notice, see how that feels. Good. All right, back through to our starting position. And now let's step the right foot forward and come up to the top of a lunge. Keeping a pretty short stance here. I've got my hips over my back knee and my front knee over my front foot. Take a moment to reach both arms overhead, see how that's feeling. And if it's okay for your body, again, interlace the fingers and reach up here. And then maybe take a little side bend over to your right, stretching into the left side body. Just see how that feels. If it feels like it's extreme, then change whatever you need to do. So to give you a little visual, we're taking a side bend over to the right. See if you can tip your right ear toward the right shoulder a little bit. And then we come back up through to center. Reach behind you now, interlace your hands and pause for a moment. You don't need to be able to pull the shoulder blades down here. We're just trying to interlace the hands. Make a fist with your two hands, and then we'll bring both hands over to the side of the body. So on my body, I don't get a very big reach here, but I'm pulling as best I can. Now with your right elbow, draw in toward the midline, and then let's drop the right ear to the right shoulder here. See if you can find a stretch through the front of the left shoulder, maybe into the neck, and then turn your head and look around a little bit. See if you can find a little bit of a stretch into the side of the neck there. Nothing extreme, just waking up whatever range of motion feels good for you. Let's take one more breath here. And then let the hands go. Release both hands back down to the mat and pause for a moment here. See how some cat and cow would feel after that work that we've done. It might feel good to move a little bit. Maybe that looking over the shoulder felt good. We can bring that back in. And settle yourself back in the center, and we're coming into the other side of that little lunge. So when you're ready, left foot is going to step forward, and I'll face you. It's actually my right leg, but if this were a mirror, this would look like the left. And then again, arms can reach overhead, interlace the fingers, turn the palms to the sky. Now, if that's not feeling good for you, if it's not working for you, try hooking your thumbs and spreading your fingers. And then lean up and over to the left. So now we're stretching into that whole right side body, into the ribs here. See if you can let the ear drop a little bit toward the shoulder. At the same time, there's a little squeeze through the back of the right seat, so the right glutes are active. And then back up through to center. Reach the hands back behind you. Make that little fist with the hands. And use your left hand to pull the right arm over to the left side of the waist. Tuck your left elbow in, and then again, left ear to the left shoulder, looking for that stretch all along here through the front of the shoulder, maybe even up into the neck. Now I find if I look up and to the left on a diagonal, and then down and to the right, that gives me something to sort of play with in terms of finding a line of stretch that's interesting to explore. Maybe it feels better for you just to stay and breathe. Let's take one more breath here as you are. And then let that go. And let's come back through to our hands and knees position. Take your knees wide here. And let's walk the hands forward and drop back toward puppy pose. Now in puppy pose, the head, if it's able, drops toward the floor. And if the head doesn't comfortably touch the floor, then let's get a blanket or a pillow under there. Give it a little something to rest on. The arms are a little bit forward and wide, and you may feel a little stretch under the shoulder or around the armpit area. Some of you might even be more comfortable if you took your chin to the floor, so you can play with that too. Take 2 or 3 breaths here and notice that the hips in this position don't touch the heels, so your butt's kind of floating in the air, and that's where we want it. As you breathe in and out a time or two, see if you can imagine your breath traveling down between the shoulder blades into your lower back. And then we'll walk the hands back in, and we're coming into a twist. So we're going to twist to our right first. With your left hand, reach up and then weave under so that you roll onto the shoulder. Then, initially, you might push the right hand into the floor a little bit to kind of leverage your stretch. If you find that your head and shoulder don't come to the floor comfortably here, take a moment and put a blanket or a pillow down, something that you can rest on so that you feel really supported. I want to show you a variation that I've been enjoying here, where we take the top hand, in this case the right hand, interlace fingers with the left. And then as I straighten that top arm, it gives me a little leverage to lean the torso a bit to the other side. So I'm finding a little stretch between the shoulder blades. I'm finding, for me, I feel a little stretch in the lower back. It feels nice. But we want to be sure that the neck and shoulders feel okay and nothing feels like it's crunching or uncomfortable. We never want to work through pain in our yoga practice. It's not helpful in the long term. Okay, release the hands. Let's come back through to center. See if there's any wiggling around that needs to happen. And then we're going to the other side. So, right arm weaves under. Drop onto your right shoulder and the right side of your head. Add any support or padding that you need to. And then if it feels okay, we'll interlace the fingers here. And with that left hand, straighten the arm and lean back into it. So maybe you feel a little bit of a widening or a broadening across the back body there. As always, if something I suggest doesn't make sense for you or your body, go ahead and find the variation that does make sense for you. So that might mean that your hand presses into the floor or reaches forward or tucks behind the back. Lots of ways to do this pose. Last breath here. And then take your time, bring the left hand back to the floor. And just briefly, let's transition all the way back onto our backs and just sort of check in. Again, if it's okay to have the legs straight, we do. Arms are just comfortably by the sides. And now let's see what we can notice. Do you feel a little bit of a difference from the work that you've done so far? The two sides of your body feel a little more even. How's that range of motion in your neck as you roll from side to side? Take a moment to breathe in and out here, and if it feels okay for you, to notice how your breath feels. Are you a little more able now to drop the breath down into the belly, into the sides of the waist, maybe into the lower back, limiting or minimizing the amount of breath or expansion we're doing in the upper chest? All right, let's pull the knees in toward us one more time, one hand on each knee. And this time, maybe you roll over to the other side to come up. For the last part of our practice today, we're going to be doing some really subtle movements on our side body. So you'll want something under your head. I'm going to use a blanket as a little bit of a pillow. And we'll start on the right side. So I'm not going to mirror you here. I'm actually going to be on my right side. As you come down, we've got the knees stacked one on top of another. The left shoulder, initially at least, is stacked on top of the right. Make sure that your neck feels comfortable and free and easy. And then we've got left palm on top of the right. Notice for a moment that this feels okay. Make any changes you need to. And then we're going to start a really subtle movement here. Begin to slide your left hand, that's your top hand, forward and back. As you slide back, the shoulder drifts back. That's fine, that's what we want. So this is a movement that comes from the shoulder, from the upper back. And as you're sliding that hand forward and back, it might be difficult to sense, but we're actually twisting the upper back a bit, moving it forward and back. Let's do another time or two sliding here. And then we come back through to our starting position. Now please take your top hand and turn it so that the thumb is up. Now it's not just the wrist, that movement comes from the shoulder, and it's the pinky edge of the hand that's on the other hand. So left thumb points to the ceiling now as we slide forward and back. And you may be able to sense that this movement feels a little different in your shoulder or back. Well, that's okay if it's a little more challenging somewhere, if it feels a little more stretchy or there's a little more effort. But no strain and no pain. We want this to feel quite doable, even to be a little bit pleasant. Just a small movement. Now we'll reset again, and this time we turn the thumb side down. So again, movement coming from the shoulder, not just the wrist. With the thumb down, we're sliding forward and back. So the pinky edge of the left hand is pointing toward the ceiling, and the right palm hasn't moved the whole time. And the knees, my knees haven't moved. You may find that you need to let your knees move a little bit with you. That would be totally okay too. Let's go a few more times here, forward and back. Good. Now we'll turn that hand back to the second variation we did, where the pinky edge is down, and then keep turning it as though you could turn your palm to the ceiling. You're not going to get too far here, right? You'll hit an end range, and that's fine. We're sliding forward and back in this position. So I'm doing about 5 slides forward and back. You may be doing more or less. That's okay, either way. And then pause, turn the hand again so the thumb points down, and then keep turning so the back of the hand now rests in the palm of your right hand. And we're sliding forward and back. Now as you go forward and back, just moving here, continue to notice the body and notice the breath. Complete this last one. Pause. And then before we do the second side, let's nudge that blanket out of the way and come to lie on the back again. Now see what you can notice. Does one side of your body feel quite different now? Maybe the left shoulder blade feels like it's a little flatter. Some people will feel the left side of their neck and face a little bit more free. You might notice you can turn your head side to side differently. All right, let's get to the second side. So I'm just going to turn around on my mat so that I can keep my face towards you, but you may just roll over if that feels better. Set up again on the side so that your left arm, your bottom arm, is reaching straight out from you. Knees are more or less stacked. And then we start with that palm touching palm, sliding forward and back here. Now you've got the basic recipe here. And we're not in a hurry, but we're not really taking any big pauses at this point, just kind of letting it be a flowing movement forward and back. Not holding, not stretching, just moving. And you may find there's something a little relaxing about doing that, or you may not. Good. Back to our starting position, pinky down, thumb toward the ceiling, and here we go, forward and back. You may find that your breath changes spontaneously as you're doing this or any of the work we've done so far. And just notice what comes up for you. And then we'll reset this one and go thumb down, pinky up, sliding forward and back. See how that feels. Noticing how the shoulder blade glides across the back, or if it feels like it's got a little hitch somewhere. We're just noticing. Now we pause and go back to that pinky edge down, and then keep turning. Most of us won't be able to lay the back of that hand in the palm of the other, but that's the angle we're going for. So remembering it's a movement of the upper arm, not the wrist. And then we're gliding forward and back. It's okay for it to be a little difficult, but no pain and no strain. Okay, and let's do our last movement now. Rotate to thumb down and then keep turning. Palm toward the ceiling, so we're internally rotated. It may feel good in some of these ranges of motion to make your sliding back and forth a little bigger, and that's totally up to you. Okay, let's do one more slide. And then I'll invite you to come to lie back on your back again, last time for our practice today. Arms and legs extended in a little savasana. Notice if the two shoulder blades feel a little more even now, two sides of your neck and jaw. Maybe if you turn your head, you're finding something to notice there. And now we'll just take a moment to rest here. And if it feels okay, you might take the hands and rest them on the low belly or maybe around the sides of the waist. And see if you're able to find that breath expanding a little bit lower down into the abdominal cavity now. As the diaphragm drops down, the neck, shoulders, and upper back are much less involved. And if that's difficult to find here, you're always welcome to bend your knees or just let go of any sort of breathing technique and let yourself rest. And then maybe for the last 20 seconds or so, we just let the arms be by the sides. And breathing in and out quietly through the nose. See if there's any change that you've been able to affect over the last 20 minutes with your body. And we'll close our practice right here. If you're able to stay longer and you want to take another moment or two, feel free. Otherwise, as you feel ready, I'll let you make your way back up to a seat. Thanks for joining me for this brief practice today. I hope it felt good in your body. And I look forward to being with you again soon. Be well.